Hey, what's up folks? This is my second video about me getting better as a pilot in Battlefield 5, sharing my findings. Previous video was mostly about basic stuff like controls, goals and other good to know stuff. If you haven't seen it, there is a link in the top right corner. This video I put in a few more hours in the planes. I've laughed like an evil demon, I've cried and yelled like my little child, and I wanted to smash the keyboard through the screen. I've even contemplated uninstalling the game. I think I've learned a few good things that I want to share with you, and I've also crashed a few times. But first, if you want to see more like this, make sure to do that all YouTube crap with thumbs and subs. I know I said that I would only focus in hammering infantry to level up faster, but the truth is, dogfighting is fun. Or at least as long as you're winning. And there are a few very simple tips that can set you up for a better chance of winning, even if you can't maneuver much more than a simple circle. So these simple tactics are used in real life dogfighting, especially in the First and Second World War. First of all, even in Battlefield 5 you gain a lot by coming in high. Having lots of potential energy, meaning altitude, gives you the option to dictate the terms. Normally, you should never choose to attack any plane that is above you, if you can avoid it. Especially not if they are aware of you. Some things can of course change this, but we will save that for some other video. By coming in from above, you can sometimes avoid being seen, especially if you have the sun behind you. You can choose to dive and get a speed advantage by converting your potential energy into kinetic, or you have a good opportunity to escape if needed. You can also see if the one we want to attack is alone, and well, simply put, you have more control. It also avoids Fliegerfaust and other god-forbidden occult items. Dive down behind your enemy and fire away. The most simple thing that you can do is to try and stick like glue to their tail, and usually things works out quite nicely. I think this is a pretty good starting point. Not only will you discover that some common defensive maneuvers are quite poor, but it will also give you some understanding for when to fire and not. Still keeping things rather simple, I'm going to look at some defensive actions you don't want to do. Not normally at least. Please, for the love of God, when a bandit is on your 6, don't do a simple loop or an Immelman. It's a great stunt for the movies, but not something you want to do in real life. I mean, Battlefield 5. So let me explain. As you all know, I like history. Not just Battlefield stories, but the real, actual history. The original Immelman turn was a maneuver invented by the German Lieutenant Max Immelman in First World War, as a means to reposition an attacker for a second attack round. The attacker would dive towards the target and attack, then pull back a bit and just short of the stall apply full rudder and yaw the aircraft around for a second run. Nowadays, that is called something completely different. And the modern Immelman, however, is a much easier maneuver. Basically, it's a half loop where the plane is rolled 180 degrees on top, resulting in a 180 degrees turn. The problem with this as a defensive maneuver, however, is that you convert kinetic energy into potential. In other words, you slow down a lot. You become this tortoise trying to crawl your way around your enemy, except your enemy is a big bad bunny that will turn your plane into a smoking pile of failure. Instead, depending on your setup, turning usually is a better idea. Then either you can gain advantage by maneuver better, or you can lead your chaser into friendly territory where you can get help from AAs, Fliegerfaust or other pilots. Circling your own ammo and repair station can also be a good idea to become near immortal. You should know though that even as you repair your health, the damage can still affect your maneuverability, making it harder to stay alive. These moves are very simple and the success is therefore limited. The truth is that if you have a bandit on your 6, it's hard to shake them. Anyway, I won't go through any more maneuvers in this video. I'm however planning to bring a few real life moments in next video. The hardest thing with ground targets is to identify them. Preferably, you need a decent view of where the enemies are before you dive, and if an AA sees you before you start to dive, just abort and take cover. AA in Battlefield 5 are really potent. They do massive damage and have extreme long range. You have to sneak on them, preferably firing before they hit you, as they really shake the plane, making it extremely difficult to aim. Switching to first person and using the mouse to look down at the ground is usually a really good way to spot enemies. Then roll over at the back and descend like in real life. Rolling on the back when starting to go down is a good idea for two reasons in real life. First of all, negative Gs are very uncomfortable, and changing from negative to positive Gs puts a lot of strain to the body, increasing risk of blackout. That doesn't really matter when you play computer games, such as Battlefield. But the second reason is that you're both more agile and can keep your eyes on the target all the way. Hey, wait, wasn't that like 3 reasons? Anyway, you should also be aware of Fliegefaust. Avoid them by doing simple tunnel rolling after you attack, and don't fly in too slow when you attack. Always try to keep an eye out for enemy planes before and after your attack. Sometimes they sneak up behind you and then you are in a really rough spot. I honestly thought I would have gotten max levels for all fighters that I set out to achieve by now. But it has been a tad harder than I expected. My biggest problem is that I'm not that good that I can change the entire war, and if my team is getting stomped, I'm usually getting stomped as well. That is a major difference for me compared to when I'm going by foot or have a tank. I think the biggest problem is that when you have to fight both enemy aircraft and enemy AA, then you pretty much get pinned down and you can't really do much, and that is a really hard time to navigate. AAs in particular can really restrict your area of effectiveness. So in short, I'm growing more comfortable with the planes, and especially in the Pacific I often get good value in somewhat even fights. I win most dogfights I enter, and some where I get attacked. I still face opponents that are just outclass me in the airplane, but less so than before. However, when flying in the old game, I have big troubles. Spitfire and Messerschmitt are just balls at the beginning. Typically, those maps have moving AA controlling large areas as well. The result has been mostly that I can't shoot infantry because AA controls the angles, and I can't shoot bombers because my guns are absolutely crap, and I rely heavily on my team for spotting and such. But I shouldn't complain too much about other factors. I've also noticed that having good routines makes lots of difference. Perhaps not flying same route every time, but some routes definitely set you up for successful runs, and I only have that for a few maps. Oh, and by the way, the sadist that invented a random spawn at airstrip on Wake Island should be punished severely with sand in all his or her food for the rest of his or her life. I hate it. No other word for it. I just hate it. And on that note, it's time for me to go back to grinding and getting better. Cheers!